are back with more Road Gang Radio live from the Fastport Studios in New Orleans. It's your host, Jimmy Mack.
It is your host, Jimmy Mack, and by the way, the gang goes everywhere. We got a lot of friends across the pond, across the great deep Pacific, everywhere, and everywhere you need to be is Road Gang Radio. Go to radionemo.com and check us out over there. All right, so CJ Smith, better known as Trucking with CJ, is an Australian road train driver. And yep, she knows Dean Croak. Content creator and industry advocate, she's driven some of the biggest trucks in the whole widest world across the remote outback, sharing the lifestyle, challenges, and beauty of life on the road with a growing global audience, but they do in fact glow when we say good morning to CJ. CJ Smith, welcome to Road Gang Radio. How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me on.
Let's just kind of get started here. So let's talk about all your platforms. Let's talk about where we can find you and what it is you're up to, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure thing. So I created my Instagram a couple years ago now called Trucking with CJ, and that's where I mainly post on there. And basically, I was just starting to post and share what I do at work because a lot of my friends just had no idea what I do when I go to work. And now I am trying to focus more on the YouTube, making longer form videos, a bit more in-depth educational stuff. So yeah, mainly on Instagram, YouTube, but then on all the platforms just with the same name.
Guys, I would really tell you guys to head over to @truckingwithcj. That, of course, will hook you up on the tube of you. If you go to truckingwithcj, CJ.com, you'll find her over there. And, of course, on the gram of Instant, you'll find her at Trucking with CJ. And, by the way, after that, there is, in fact, a /. Okay. Now let's talk about the fact that so many people often take off as a social media influencer, not by accident, but by simply saying, there's something I want to do, I have a passion about, I want my friends to know, as you said. Talk about what you did before you actually started posting. Talk about your love of trucking and how it is you came to fall in love with trucks, whether it was while you were behind the wheel or even before that when you decided to get behind the wheel.
So I grew up on an orchard. So my family grew fruit like apples, pears, cherries, and we obviously had an old Bedford that would take our apples to the market and things like that. So that's kind of where I grew up with. And then my dad on our off season would go and cut potatoes for other farmers, and then go to convoys and stuff like that. But all I wanted to do when I was in high school was actually race motocross. So straight out of school, I went into motorbike riding, then found myself in a corporate career. But then in my mid-20s, my sister actually encouraged me to go trucking with her and my dad, and I just went into concrete mixers, like, where you put the concrete in the back, it spins around in a bowl. That's how was my first full-time job in the industry. And then just had progressed my way up through the different classes and licenses and different types of trucking from there. And now find myself being able to haul some of the biggest story trains around Australia.
So this is kind of an interesting way to kind of end up there. It wasn't like you were thrown behind the biggest thing you possibly could imagine from the get-go. You actually worked your way up there. And in many ways, a lot of the American truck drivers who are listening this morning are going to completely get where you're coming from because many of them either went through the military or, in your case, started on a farm. So you fall deeply in love with the industry. You love doing what you do. You get to handle these incredibly big rigs. And you have friends, right, who are basically like, CJ, what exactly is it you do? So talk about how you started creating content.
Yeah, I was driving fuel tankers at the time and was really proud of where I got to because I was, got the biggest license and doing dangerous goods. And I actually went to HR because in the past, across the industry, normally it's a blanket rule. You're not allowed to film at work. It's a liability and stuff like that. And I was getting really upset because I was like, how are we meant to get more people in the industry if they don't really know what it takes to do it? I went to the human resources. I don't know if that's a thing in America, but and just said, hey, I have this idea. Do you support it? Can I just go ahead and post? And if you don't like anything, I'll take it down. And that was my foot in the door to start posting. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that it would take off how it did. I remember getting 900 followers and being like, wow, 900 people care about trucks, how cool. And now we are where we are. But it was just more so just to spread awareness, really.
Two quick things, by the way, make you feel better. Show you that we're actually two countries who actually occasionally have a common language. Motocross over here is called motocross. That'll make you feel good. And then number two,
Yeah.
oh my God, we invented the concept of human resources, and I have been regretting it ever since
Okay.
the first offices were ever set up, by the way. I think it's a highfalutin version of we're going to merge payroll with the legal department. But I understand and I get it. Okay. So you get 900 followers in the blink of an eye. There it is. It happens. But at some point, you start to get some real followers and people who aren't just your friends and aren't just people interested in trucking start jumping on board. How quick at that point does it become a matter of, okay, I got to start making stuff that's funny and fun and ridiculous and interesting and compelling and great content? So how do you continue to improve content once you get started?
I've never had that thought process. So I've never created content for anyone else other than myself. So it's kind of been just a video diary, really. And I make videos that I would want to watch. And if other people like it, then that's great. But I've never gone and done the dancing or the singing or the miming or anything like that because it just doesn't fit well with me. I just post what I do, and if people like it, then that's great. But it wasn't until this year that I've actually had to step away from full-time truck driving, my health, really. And also, like, social media's allowed me that freedom to now be able to do that because I want to share the industry more broadly. So now I can cherry pick trucking jobs that I want to do, like little projects and things like that. It wasn't until this year that, I noticed that I was working 87-hour weeks in the mines and doing content every other minute that I wasn't driving, and it just burnt me out. So just taking a minute for my health now.
By the way, congratulations on that. It's well earned and well deserved. I'm gonna make you feel really good, by the way. My co-host, who actually joins me in the second half of the show, she has a show called We Should Write, right? She just recently had a guest on there, and one of the things, CJ, that was so cool that I ended up hearing was this woman has had a nice breakthrough in her music career. And the breakthrough came in because she stopped making music for anybody else but herself. She asked herself that magic question: what would I like to hear? What would make me happy? And that makes a big difference. And with that in mind, given the fact that I've watched a lot of this stuff, you're incredibly informative as well. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not just a goofball, kind of thing. This is somebody who actually knows the industry in and out. Now, we have the advantage of having our good friend Dean Croak, who works for DAT out of Boston, but he's an Australian trucker. He's got a 2.5 million mile Grumpy Pete Peterbilt. So we know a lot of stuff about your industry, but you know what is going on right now. Can you kind of give our American listeners, all these truckers that are listening right now, can you kind of tell them what the world of trucking in Australia is like?
Yeah, it's we're having a real issue over in Australia where there's not enough young people and not enough skilled people coming into our industry. A lot of my really good mentors and the people I look up to are all retiring because it's coming to the end of their career, and there's not enough people learning from these people. So that's my biggest concern at the moment for the industry. But it is a very profitable, like as a driver, you can earn quite a good income. I've been able to explore most of Australia. And things like that. So it's been a good career for me. I'm actually going to a lot of conferences now that I didn't even know existed. As a truck driver, kind of in the seat, you don't know what's happening in the industry. And I know that there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes at an industry level where they're trying to make it a lot better for all of us. So I'm very excited for that. It's an ever-evolving industry, isn't it? And I think that's the same over there. But I know that over there it's run a lot differently, like a lot more owner-operators maybe over there and things like that. So I don't know too much about America, but in Australia it's doing okay. I know there's a lot of companies going bust at the moment, and I'm not too sure why. I think there's a bit of undercutting happening, but from a driver's perspective, it's going really well.
It's interesting over here, by the way, and since you're sharing so much wonderful information with us, I'll give you some about what happens over here. Over 90% of all trucks on the road come from either small businesses, small companies, or owner-operators. There are very, for all the celebration of the big fleets, the big boys, you hear all that kind of talk. Over here in the United States, it is a lot of small business owners, and we love to tell people most of the trucks you see on the highways and byways are men and women inside of an office making their way down the highway. Now, you notice I said men and women. Less than 4% of all the over-the-road truck drivers, the ones that actually cross the interstate and the ones that cross state lines, are in fact women. From your perspective, and as somebody who actually is a terrific ambassador for the industry, are you concerned, are the numbers falling in regards to women over in Australia, or do you see any increase in those numbers? I know there's a decrease overall getting young people in, but what is your feeling in regards to
Mm.
getting more women on board?
There's definitely a growing number of women joining the industry, which is great. I normally focus on just young people in general, trying to get them in. But as a woman, yeah, there's a few of us. I think we're around the same percentage as you guys. I know at one stage we were about 2.5% of the industry women held licenses. But we've got to provide better facilities, I think, for women as well. Like I'm currently in New Zealand and trucking around, and we had the issue like where we had to park the truck last night. No toilet facilities anywhere. You know, we actually had to drive up the road, pull over, which took time out of my partner's book for driving time just because I needed to use some facilities. But there's definitely more women. I think people need to realise it is a tough industry, so don't join it thinking that everything's going to change and everyone's going to bow down to you. But if you're tough and you're willing to work hard, gosh, you can make such a good life for yourself. So I'm just trying to show women that, I'm quite small and I can do it. So if I can do it, then other people know that they can too.
I'm a big fan of adventure. In the time that, Dean and I actually spend on the air, a lot of our stuff kind of goes far afield. We take a lot of exit ramps as a kind of good way to describe our conversations. And I was kind of wondering, you've had a lot of different experiences out there, and a lot of people, who are from the United States don't get a chance to come down to your country, don't see a lot of the world. Of all the kind of strange things that have happened to you out there on the highways and byways of Australia, what are some of your highlights in regards to like that was amazing, and maybe one or two of I never want to go through that again?
Gosh, these are really good questions, aren't they? Well, a career highlight was just what I've completed recently where, you know how you guys have got NASCAR. We've got an event that travels Australia called the V8 Supercars. And I actually got to drive a race transporter around the country for one of the teams. It was a last-minute phone call. I had to be down there by the end of that week to help them, and I was gone for 5 weeks. So I think that was a real career. Like, I really enjoyed that, and I've loved driving the big, like, triple and quad road trains. I don't know. I don't know about what would be an adventure that I wouldn't want to do again. I just think that there's some moments that are pretty scary out there in the middle of the night or in a storm and things like that you're just like, please let this be over soon. But yeah, that's a hard one, sorry.
That's okay. That's not a bad answer, actually, because it actually sets up my next question and way for me to get more specific about this. Given the fact of how much Australian space is the great wide open that Tom Petty sang about, Under the Sky So Blue, I was kind of curious, rather than asking like a bad experience, what are some of the loneliest roads, the longest stretches that when you get out there driving, you really are kind of with your thoughts inside the cab for extended periods of time where you talked about being tough, right? So one of the toughest things is that isolation. Either you embrace it and kind of enjoy the wonder of the openness, or it really gets to you. What are some of the places in Australia that our friends here in the United States, because they can talk about Wyoming all day long, what can you kind of tell us about some of your favorite, like, I can't believe how beautiful this is? Like, it never gets old. I think maybe her bars have died out. That is a strong and lengthy possibility. We're going to have Madison pick up the phone for a second here and see if she is still on the air. We can also stop this right now on the recording, and we can pick up where we left off if you want to, Madison. Are you there, CJ? CJ.
Yeah, I actually just did a podcast recently with an actor called Shane Jacobson about mental health, and I was saying that there's some days that the wide open spaces of the outback can be therapeutic and it's very like peaceful, and then days when your head's not quite right, it can be incredibly excruciating out there. So I think that for me, if I can keep exercising, moving my body, practicing gratitude, listening to good podcasts and stuff, it can be really, really great. But I personally love it. Like, I've done one of the remotest places I've gone is right up in the Pilbara up in northern WA, where I didn't have phone reception for 24 hours, and I was on a dirt corrugated road where I couldn't max out more than 20 kilometres an hour. I'm not sure what that works out in miles, but very, very slow. And it can be very beautiful but very tough as well.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like I said, I have a sense of wide open spaces, having driven, across Wyoming, having driven across Montana. I have some sense of that.
Mm.
But the scope of the fact that we're talking about a country that is a continent that is, in many ways, the middle of it is often the middle of nowhere, even along the coast. It can be a very long stretch of country to kind of play through. And I was wondering, in regards to, as you shift over away from trucking. I don't mean away from trucking in the sense of like that you're not going to be trucking again. You're still trucking. But in regards to your selectivity about being able to choose stuff, how are you choosing? I mean, what kind of jobs are you taking? Are they jobs kind of spent? Are you doing the same thing you did with your content? I'm going to start choosing things that I really, really want to do and really want to experience. How are you making those choices?
The universe kind of presents itself opportunities. Like last week, I was sitting at home and I was kind of miserable, and I got a phone call saying, "Do you want to come to New Zealand?" And I was like, "Yep." 3 days later, I was on a plane, and now I'm over here just trekking around in a truck, checking out the landscape over here. So just kind of, yeah, just follow what makes me feel good and see what comes from that. I'd like to see some more of northern Queensland. I've seen most of Australia. I'd like to do some logging in Tasmania. I'd love to come over to America and have a look at how things are done over there, maybe go to Europe. I actually used to live in British Columbia up in Canada, so I'd like to go up there and see what trucking's like up there as well, and just keep growing. Like every operator, no one knows how to do everything, so I'd like to just be the best all-rounded operator I can. So that means constantly learning, evolving, growing.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the things, and maybe you give us a shout out on your social medias, and not for me, but if you in fact do that, a lot of our trucking friends will be able to find you. I'm of course giving out the socials you actually put out there for public consumption. So when you make your way to the United States, they can make recommendations. If you really want to see the country, look at this. If you really want to see the industry, look at that. I've always told
Yeah.
people that you haven't quite lived until you've actually done the joint federal highway project that goes from Alaska all the way into the state of Washington, literally through
Oh,
Canada, is a really remarkable thing. The Pacific Coast, the I-5, there are a lot.
yeah.
I would have advised CJ staying out of Atlanta. Just trust me on this. It's like it has literally
Yeah.
two of the three top bottlenecks in the whole United States. But there's some really great places. So you're in New Zealand, which is really terrific. A very
Yeah.
different place geographically than Australia, despite what people
Yeah.
think. Talk about you've kind of hinted at it already, but kind of give us a sense of what you're seeing and what you're falling in love with over there.
Well, I love mountains. So being over here, being able to see the mountains and all the snow on them, and there's a really beautiful road that goes along the coast. So you've got snow-capped mountains on one side and a rugged coastline on the left, and that's been really great. I it's in Australia. I'm so used to flat, open, red dirt areas of the outback and things like that, and then over here it's just very lush green snow and all of that, which is really is beautiful, and it's just very different. The truck setups, they've got a lot of twin steers, a lot of truck and trailer combinations, where back home we'd have mainly your prime mover with the trailers hooked onto the back of that. But the roads are very tight over here, so they can't have the long combinations that we do and that we can haul over Australia.
By the way, we used to have a regular caller on our old platform. Not only was he a truck driver in Australia and a truck driver in New Zealand, he actually ran trains in Tasmania as well too. Let me ask you what the market's like there. I mean, do they have the same shortages and the same issues? Are they looking for people to get behind the wheel? Are they looking for people to do the kind of, I don't want to call them dirty jobs. I want to call them dirty, rewarding jobs. The jobs where you get your hands dirty, but you feel like you've actually done something at the end of the day. Are they having the same issues there, or is it a tighter market?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that they are always looking for drivers as well. I don't know enough about what their market is. I've only been here a week, but my partner's from New Zealand and he left, 12 years ago. And he's saying that there's a substantial increase in wages now over here. Like before, a lot of people would go to Australia to make a bit better living for themselves, but it seems to have really picked up here now. So the drivers are in a lot better position. I did come over here in March and went to a truck show, and it was really cool to see how many young people, like young kids, are really eager to get in the industry. So I think over here they support them a lot more, give them a lot more of a foot in the door and more of a trade kind of entry. So I feel really that this country's kind of got it a bit more figured out.
All right, a couple of fun rapid fire questions. Well, not rapid fire. Give you a chance to unpack all of these. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
always asks the question, what do you eat in regards to what do you keep in the cab with you? Because, man, there are stretches when you used to drive where there would not be a place to eat in sight, right? I mean, talking about long stretches. So what do
Yeah.
you keep in the cab to keep yourself sustained? And the other question is, as somebody who actually takes care of themselves and understands that, how do you stay healthy? How do you actually live a lifestyle that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, basically start racing you not only to your destination, but an early grave?
So food, I like to prepare food by going to the supermarket. I love getting yogurts, biscuits and cheeses, some pre-made healthy, high-protein meals I can put in a little oven. Um, I love vegetable sticks and hummus. I love lots of fruit, so blueberries and things like that. And then for my overall health, I really need to prioritize sleep. That's one. Moving the body. I'm trying to get back into Pilates just to get everything kind of moving how it's meant to. And if I eat well, then that's a very big step in the right direction. And as you said, we can sometimes be days before we have a good supermarket or someone that can pull over and have a decent, healthy meal. So it's important that you prepare yourself for success, really.
By the way, I noticed you added a lot of anti-inflammatories in that diet. Good for you. I do have a question of language. Of all those wonderful,
Mm,
healthy things, the blueberries, the hummus, all the vegetable
mm.
pieces, I noticed you said biscuits. Are you referring to our
Yeah.
American cookies? I'm not sure if you get which one you guys use. I always get that one
So
confused.
for
Go ahead.
uh, so over here, a cookie would be like a sweet, doughy, maybe some chocolate in it or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking biscuit like a cracker, so like a savory biscuit that you put cheese on top of. I don't know if that's what you'd call a biscuit. I can't remember. It's
Oh
been a
my
while since I've
God.
been over there.
Oh my God, you're making me laugh because literally a biscuit in Great Britain, of course, is a cookie. A biscuit in the United States is a giant, big, doughy thing that you can either put a sausage on or flip it and then turn around and put jelly on as well too. Now you're telling me
Oh my gosh.
a biscuit down in your neck of the woods is actually a seasoned salty cracker. Terrific. I mean, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. That's so funny. Like, because when I lived in Canada, I had to relearn a lot of. Speak the same language, but we don't. And yeah, just trying to get my head around all the different sayings. And for us, we love stopping and getting a pie for lunch. But over here, a pie is pastry with meat filling, so maybe steak and mushroom or chicken and veg and things like that. But then over there, a pie would be an apple crumble or something sweet that you'd have as a dessert.
Well, it's interesting when you say pie over here. If you're talking about a pie with meat, you actually have to identify the meat. So it's got to be like a chicken pot
Mm.
pie, a meat pot pie. They love the term pot pie, as if somehow that like any pie is not made in some kind of semi pot. George Bernard Shaw said it. Basically Americans, the British, and the Australians and the Canadians are a common people separated by a common language, is the best way to kind of explain all what we're doing. And like I said, the other thing about sleep too as well, because it seems to me that, the opportunity to kind of really make sure your sleep schedule is in order is, we talk about this all the time. How do you set the cab up in a way? Because I know you have to sleep in your cab for a lot of the routes you used to take.
Yeah.
How do you set the cab up in those wide open spaces so that you're able to get a good night's sleep while at the same time not hearing things howling in the distance?
Yeah, I always try and bring the same bedding that I'd have at home. So the same style of quilt, same kind of sheet, same pillow, so that at least that bit's consistent. And then I have an app on my phone called Calm, which has like sleep stories, set like white noises and stuff like that. And if I'm struggling to get asleep initially, I'll put that on next to me, and then that can kind of normally get my body into some kind of sleep. I don't have a circadian rhythm at the moment very well because I've done years of shift work where I do like maybe 3 days of night shift, have 2 days off, go straight into 4 days. And then when I was at the mines, it was 7 days, 7 nights, and then 2 weeks off. So I just have to try and keep those kind of things consistent. And then if I can put that app on, then my body knows, okay, it's time to sleep. So yeah, I definitely think that not having consistent sleep has been probably detrimental to my health a bit, but at least we're on the right path now, trying to get some consistency and some routine.
I'm going to make you feel a whole lot better in a whole lot of a hurry. Unlike a lot of things that take forever to correct, it turns out that you can actually immediately restore yourself in regards to catching up on lost sleep. The moment you get 2 straight days of actual rest, it resets you and you got a fighting chance. It's one of the great breakthroughs when they realize that, not only can you reset your sleep schedule quicker than you think, you actually begin to reverse all the detrimental health effects, including the inflammation, including the breathing issues. They all can go away. So, by the way, as somebody who used to have to wake up and do this particular show at 4 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast of the United States, I'll tell you, I absolutely sympathize with you. I completely understand. Okay, we got time for one more question. CJ has been so awesome to join us here. My question for you is in regards to the content you create. We've done a lot of talking around it. You said you make things that you would want to see and you would want to enjoy. Can you give our listeners a little sense of what that content is like so when they jump in, and they will jump in, they get a better sense of who they're running into when they run into CJ?
Well, when you open my page, you're just going to see me for who I am. There's no act or anything like that. It's just a day in the life of me. I do bring another element of I love cinematography. I love throwing my drone up and giving a different aspect to what we do. So a lot of drone work, a lot of follow along with me, some educational stuff about what road safety looks like in Australia. And I guess for your American followers and stuff like that, it's going to be that different element of touring the big road trains through the outback of Australia.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for making time on the side of the road, making sure that you actually maintain that signal and keep those bars intact. Please tell the gentleman along the ride with you, thank you very much for making time for us. We know that while you are not as busy behind the wheel, you are busy out there making sure that trucking has a good forward face and a great voice behind it. We really appreciate all the time you've made for us, CJ. And all right, I'm going to ask you one more question because my co-host that comes in the last 2 hours would kill me if I didn't make it. How much time do I got left, Madison? What am I looking at? I got about 1 minute. Really quickly, what is your go-to song to listen to when you're on the road?
If It Wasn't for the Wind by Errol Langley.
Nicely done. Boy, that was quick, huh? Man, she came up with that one in a blitzkrieg.
That's my favorite.
That's okay. By the way, well done, well said. Truckingwithcj.com, Instagram.com. You go to Trucking with CJ. That's going to get you there, make the miracle happen. And, of course, on the tube of you at Trucking with CJ. Thank you so much, CJ. Y'all be safe behind the wheel, and thank you for pulling over. It's a great value lesson.